Manchester United against Arsenal. You don't often get a big blockbuster game like that on the opening weekend of the season. Just give us an idea. You know, we saw Benjamin Sesko and Victor Gyökeres. It was billed as Sesko against Gyökeres. I mean, Sesko came on in the second half. Of course, Gyökeres started. Have you seen any glimpses of what fans can expect, or far too early to judge?
No, I think it's a bit too early to judge. And you know how social media works and fan base work, and suddenly you'll try to look at everything. Gyökeres played an hour, Sesko played 30 minutes. Clearly, you could see, especially with the Gyökeres hour of football on the pitch, that there's still a lot of things for him to adapt to, this Arsenal team and the way this team plays. He's a player that is very comfortable in transition. For example, when Arsenal are a team that doesn't really do transitions, they like the control, they like to play at their own pace, they like when everything is in place and then they can put the attack together. There's a couple of times where Odegaard is on the ball at Old Trafford on Sunday, where there's a ball there in transition for Gyökeres, and instead he keeps it, gets another touch, slows things down, and wait for Saka to be there on the right hand side, and then get everybody in place. So this would change, and they would play more on Gyökeres' strength than maybe they did at Old Trafford. But that's normal. That was the first official game really that he was there. For Šeško, we saw how good Mbomo and Cunha were, and how much already they've changed the attacking power for United. He would be the same, but again, he just needs a bit of time to adapt. He used to play in a front two with Openda at Leipzig. He's always really played in front twos. This is very different to be on your own with two number 10s behind you and wing backs around you. But I think it was interesting to hear Ruben Amorim after the game saying we need crosses in the box for Šeško, which I agree. The guy is big and strong and good in the air. I think he can also do a lot of other things than just having balls kind of like thrown at him from each wings in the box when he will face some of the best centre defenders and physical centre defenders in Europe. So let's see how United adapt to Šeško and how Šeško adapts to them, and same with Gyökeres at Arsenal.
A key word, isn't it? Adapt. I want to just pick up on that because you talked about Mbumo and Cunha making a bright start, and reasons to be optimistic there for Manchester United fans, of course. What does it mean for Bruno Fernandes? Because there's a lot of conjecture. He's United's best player for the past few seasons, and yet does he actually fit into a Ruben Amorim style of play, and where? Yeah,
I think he fits now in that deeper role because they don't have a passer like him who can play there. Ugarte can't pass the ball. Casemiro is an okay passer, but this is not what he's there for. He's there to recover the ball, to break the opposition's attack. He needs somebody next to him that can pass the ball. That guy is Bruno. But you lose a lot of what Bruno would bring you if he was playing higher up the pitch. You saw the game on Sunday. He was far from the Arsenal box, far too often, really, for him to be decisive like he was in previous season. I would have Bruno playing higher up, but again, they need him badly in that deeper role in midfield, and until they find somebody else, which they might even not do. So it'd be interesting to see that. And then even if they did sign another midfielder, then it's him, Cunha and Mbomo for the three number 10, even Mount, to be fair, who I thought was decent against Arsenal.
Yeah.
4 for those two number 10 positions behind whoever the striker. I guess Cunha can be that guy, and you can play Bruno and Mbomo behind him. You can have Šeško and Cunha and Bruno behind. There's a lot of things then that Ruben Amorim can do. At least he's got options now, and he can do different things with all the firepower he's got up front. But yeah, I love Bruno. I just think that deeper, you waste a little bit. Not waste is a bit too strong, but you prevent yourself from having all his qualities closer to the opposition box when he's going to be lethal there. But that's the way they are now. Until they find another midfielder, he has to play there alongside Casemiro.
Well, they did find one, but they couldn't do the deal because it was going to prove too expensive, and Brighton said no with regard to Carlos Baleba. Do you think United may have learnt lessons from previous transfer windows, that previously you could argue that someone like Carlos Baleba might have been a first choice, and once that didn't happen, they thought we're going to have to get someone, and they spent huge amounts of money trying to get another midfielder to fill that role, not necessarily their first choice.
Yeah.
Would it be advisable for United just to take a step back, and if there's still a possibility in future transfer windows, maybe not January, but next summer, to maybe pursue Carlos Baleba again, is it worth the wait, and have they got enough for this season to be able to wait for that?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think it's a great debate that they would have had internally too. Baleba is 120 million euros. Is that too much money? Maybe. But then he's one, outstanding. Two, he will be your midfielder for the next 10 years. When you have Casemiro at his age, Bruno at his age, Mainu, I mean, Amorim is not a fan. It's just as simple as that. And Ugarte, who has big limitations in his own game. I don't know. I guess the answer, which I know is a bit a simplistic answer, but let's see who they sign. If they sign somebody that is not Baleba, and then we will see if they were right or not to pass on Baleba and sign somebody else. If they don't sign anybody, I think they're short. I think they're too short. At least they don't play in Europe this season, which is an absolute blessing for them. But even for the Premier League, I'm not sure you can finish in the top 5, for example, with Casemiro, Ugarte, Mainu, and Bruno as your 4 options in those 2 deeper midfielders. I think that's not enough. That's not good enough.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if they do go back into the market. As far as we're aware at this stage, with only a few days to go, it doesn't look likely. But of course, that can change. Look, midfield was an area. We've got to talk about the goalkeeper because Andre Onana, he wasn't dropped, according to Ruben Amorim. It just said, look, he hasn't trained that long. He hasn't had much game time. So Altay Bayindir came in. Was a huge fault for the goal. That can't be escaped. Gary Neville has suggested they have to go out and sign a new goalkeeper. Do you agree? And there's a certain Gianluigi Donnarumma who's available. Is he the answer?
I agree that they need another goalkeeper. Like they went in for Donnarumma 2.5 months ago, 3 months ago. They got in touch with Enzo Raiola, his agent. You don't contact Donnarumma's agent if you don't want a goalkeeper. Otherwise, this is just stupid. Why would you do this? So the fact that they got in touch with Donnarumma and maybe other goalkeepers or certainly their entourage shows you that they were clearly in for a goalkeeper, or certainly wanted to find out a bit more about some goalkeeper situation to see what they do. I don't think Amorim trusts Onana at all. I think Bayindir is an okay goalkeeper, but just about good enough to be a number 2 at a club like United. Just about. But unless you sell Onana, you can't bring in a goalkeeper now. And who's going to sign Andre Onana right now with 10 days to go in the transfer window? I'm not sure. So I thought Donnarumma would be great for them. I think they can afford him. But the problem is, unless Onana goes, they can't. I don't think it would be wise for them to sign another goalkeeper. And that's where the difficulty is for them. On top of that midfielder that they are still chasing, that they want to sign, or maybe not because they might want to wait for Baleba another 6 months or another year. It's a little bit that uncertainty around what they do next, I think, is right up there. But for me, and Sunday showed it again, and what we saw from Onana last season, they need a better goalkeeper already for sure.
I think also when you look before this window opened, a lot of the pundits and a lot of the experts says this is not a 1 window fix. This is a 3 or 4 transfer window fix. So maybe if they accept that, I know Manchester United fans will get excited because they've revamped their front 3, but then they got to be patient as well. And I think United fans might accept, because of the mistakes they've made in the past, that if there is that chance that Baleba can come, then it's going to be very difficult to bring in a midfielder now, because you might be spending the budget that would have helped you get Baleba next time. Just picking really up on what you said about Donnarumma, though, Julien, where do you see him ending up then? If United aren't going to sell any of their goalkeepers, which it doesn't look likely at the moment, I think you've spoken about Manchester City and the whole Ederson situation, which we'll come to Ederson in a moment, very quickly on United and some of the potential outgoings there, Julien. Jadon Sancho, of course.
What is going on?
Well, we know that AS Roma are pushing to do that deal still. Gianpiero Gasperini is a really big fan of Jadon Sancho, and he's driving that deal. But I'm told it hasn't broken down on personal terms, but it looks like Sancho is looking at other options. Rasmus Højlund as well, AC Milan desperately want to bring him in, but they want a loan with an option. Højlund and United would prefer a permanent deal. I think Højlund initially wanted to fight for his place at Manchester United, but I think he was given the message on Sunday loud and clear, not in the squad at all. And then, of course, there's Alejandro Garnacho, gap in valuation between Manchester United and Chelsea. And he's made it clear he only wants to go to Chelsea because Bayern Munich have come in and he has rejected their advances. So it'll be interesting to see again there, because the focus definitely at Old Trafford is on departures. We talked there very briefly about Donnarumma.
Manchester United's chances of offloading Rasmus Højlund have seemingly taken a huge hit, with AC Milan reportedly on the verge of signing Bayer Leverkusen striker Victor Boniface on loan. Højlund has been heavily linked with a move to Milan of late, with the 22-year-old not in the plans of Red Devils head coach Ruben Amorim following the arrival of Benjamin Sesko from RB Leipzig. However, according to BBC Sport, a proposed move to the San Siro is on the brink of collapse. The report claims that Milan are nearing the signing of Boniface on a straight loan from Leverkusen, with the Italian giants moving for the Nigerian after becoming frustrated by the discussions with Man United. The Red Devils have been looking for an obligation to buy to be included in any loan deal for Højlund, but Milan have thus far not been prepared to agree to those terms. On the other hand, the move for Boniface is only expected to include the option to sign the striker next summer, giving the Italian giants full control when it comes to his future. A move to Milan is now seemingly off the table for Højlund, who has expressed a desire to remain with Man United this summer, even with the added competition from Sesko. Højlund was an unused substitute against Fiorentina in the team's final preseason friendly of the summer, and he was then left out of the squad entirely against Arsenal on the opening weekend of the new campaign. The Denmark international only managed 4 Premier League goals for the Red Devils last season, while his overall record for the club is 26 goals and 6 assists in 95 appearances in all competitions.